Hello and happy Friday. Welcome back to the Security Token Show, everybody. We're your hosts. I'm Herwig, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Sonlin. How are you this week, buddy?
Herwig, everything is great. We have an awesome docket of news. Nico is joining the show for the market movements. All is well in the world.
Yeah, we got a great interview coming up as well with DigiShares and the first full week back, if you will. So we've got no shortage of announcements going on in the tokenization and RWA world. So we can jump right back into it with our market movements. But first, if you like this show, if you love this show, please, please, please make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share what we got going on every week. It really means a lot to us. But with that, let's move on. Nico Pantelis, welcome back to the show, coming in from Dubai. How are you?
Gentlemen.
Glad to have you. For those of you who don't know, Nico, by the way, is a partner of Blue Bay Ventures, one of the prominent and leading RWA VC funds. So we love his insights, having him on the show, especially for our biggest news this week. Starting out with Mantra, folks. We're going to get right into it. Mantra announced another $1 billion pipeline deal with another company out of the UAE. There's a large property developer, DAMAC Group, DAMAC, and they say within early 2025, they're tokenizing $1 billion worth. And by the way, this is the same company that apparently earlier also announced a $20 billion in investments in data centers, I believe in the US, because Donald Trump announced it. So pretty big announcement of a pipeline deal here. What do you guys think on this?
This is big news in Dubai, guys. I heard it many times on the local radio. Everybody's very excited that the Dama Group is connecting their ties again with the US now that Trump is stepping into the White House again. Huge and playing the digital asset team with the real estate industry over here. Damac is, I think, the number 2 or 3 player in Dubai, which is very big. If these guys start tokenizing, everybody, has to get their act together and start tokenizing their properties, and it runs into the billion, if not trillions, over here. So
wow.
That is bullish. If I've ever heard it, it's fantastic to hear that boots on the ground confirmation that this is a big deal. And like you said, it could lead to a lot of larger deals. I mean, starting with just $1 billion is already, in my opinion, a huge deal. So if they can accomplish that within early 2025, that just goes to show you that we are expecting billions and maybe tens of billions more easily this year in real estate tokenization, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, we released a real estate report on tokenized real estate. We're at about a $5+ billion market cap today. So we have a long way to go. Kyle, any thoughts on this one before we move on?
Honestly, I'm really excited about the next article with Coinbase hinting at a potential tokenized stock offering. Do you want to lay out the scene there for us?
Well, just, Jesse Pollock of Base just going live on Twitter, going out and announcing that, they want to bring $1 trillion+ assets onto the Base blockchain. And of course, the way they see to do that is through RWAs, even hinting that they're exploring how they might be able to bring coin, the stock for Coinbase onto Base, the blockchain, in a safe, compliant way. So the fact that the Base team acknowledges that they're working on RWAs is, a bullish sign, I think, for the sector. We've already seen quite a bit of activity from a variety of different, tokenization platforms, moving on to Base and taking advantage of the community in that chain. But to hear it directly from, the top, if you will, I mean, there are not that many chains that are endorsing RWAs like that. So I love to see that when they do. Kyle, tell me, you were hot about this one.
Yeah, well, this reminds me of Overstock. We've seen this in the past, companies that have done tokenized dividends. It's incredibly effective in forcing location of shorts. So I would be very interested to watch the timing of when this rolls out. There's certainly going to be a legal complexity here that may add, months or years into their potential launch of a product like this. But there's also a very strategic timing around when they have a high level of short shares. Because what happens is when you issue that tokenized share, it forces companies that own the public stock to actually have to locate and redeem their individual share in order to be entitled to their dividend, which could be, a 5-to-1 or 1-to-5 kind of a thing, or it could be 2-to-1, or it could be 10-to-1, but it's still free money, right? So if you're a big holder, it could be potentially tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars in new stock. And so because of that, it forces short sellers to have to locate their shares, which in a lot of cases they're unable to do, which leads to some sort of short cover or short squeeze. So we do see this as a very effective pricing tool to shake out some of the short holders, but it also makes a ton of sense. We know that Coinbase owns a broker-dealer ATS that they acquired back in like 2018. And so they have had focuses on doing something like this before they even went public. It's great to see that they're focused on it. I think Base as a blockchain is a potentially huge business model for Coinbase that isn't currently being factored into the stock price. And excited to see that they're still talking about this publicly. I know that this is obviously a bit of a risk to be a company executive and talking more about these types of things, but it's nice to see that they continue to really believe the future of RWAs, because Base could be a huge opportunity there. And we're already seeing companies like Bakkt doing awesome things with tokenizing stocks.
100%. Nico, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is the way it supposed to be. Coinbase is doing it the way we, as a VC, but also you guys as a media group, see the way forward of tokenizing assets on blockchains, and that you don't distribute your rewards or your income, your profits, not through utility tokens, but through registered security tokens, which is in essence tokenized stock. And that's the way Coinbase wants to handle this industry. And that's also how we think these things should operate in the future. You have your utility tokens, which is all great to have to settle to the blockchains and make them private and safe and stuff like that. And these other tokens should be registered securities. That's in essence how it works. And they don't fall for the debate to get, in my opinion, the Base token launched as a utility token for the L2, because there's no purpose in essence for this kind of token. So they just go ahead and say, hey, look, we're going to tokenize the stock, and we could give all these perks to these token holders, get special access, get special bonuses, gets all kind of, because now they know who their real stock/token holders are on chain. So that's fantastic in my opinion.
It's the future, 100% what you're saying, Nico, I think. And speaking of some activity out of Singapore of the future, tokenized corporate bonds could be one of those ways that they actually start to, bring a lot of customers on chain, if you will, not just directly through equity. And in fact, the OCBC Bank in Singapore claims to be the first to be now tokenizing what they call bespoke corporate bonds. And they say that, it's better than traditional corporate bonds. You can fractionalize, it's faster, et cetera. So very exciting to see Singapore coming out with some news there. And it's just continued to do very institutional, very proper tokenization activity over there. So I'm very excited to see what really comes out of Singapore this year, because they're like a volcano. They've been brewing in terms of, activity, and I'm ready to see it kind of pop off this year. So any comments from you guys before we move on to Dusk?
That's a pretty proven use case. Great to see it continue to grow. Not shocking at all.
Time for the US to hop on board, because these guys in the global south are tokenizing at rapid speed. So time to get stuff cooking in the US on a tokenized level. Let's go. Let's go, Trump.
I echo those words as well. Moving on, Dusk, which has been around since 2018 with their layer 1 focused on RWAs. They've now announced another privacy-focused one with zero knowledge proofs. So this is a big deal, obviously, coming out at the beginning of the year, saying that they've been working on this specifically for 6 years. So saying this privacy-first RWA tokenization layer allows, a better solution, I guess, to tokenization. So we've definitely seen them be very loud, and we love people who are supporting tokenization. And now it's great to see that they're kind of saying we're mainnet live, ready for tokenization with, a huge infrastructure they've been building out for all these years. So I'm just
shout out to the Dusk team. They've been vocally supportive of a lot of our initiatives for many years. So great to see that they have some technological launch and things in the pipeline, and they are Netherlands based, I believe, right?
I think I've heard of them in the past, in Europe. But in my opinion, these guys should come on the show and explain what they're all up to nowadays. That's what they should do.
They're welcome.
I agree, because they also have their Dusk token, and especially over here at the RWA Foundation, we're big fans of governance models like this for RWA platforms. So definitely would love to have them on the show. We're going to wrap it up.
Quick shout out, Herwig. Regards to the RWA Foundation, I urge everybody to follow the X account and also join the Telegram group, because I hear you guys are cooking up some nice things in the background to be announced.
I mean, we are operating this, crypto style, if you will, which, it benefits to be paying attention, to be in the right groups, and, being in the know. So absolutely go follow the X account, go join our Telegram. By the way, it's just a great RWA community. We call ourselves the Herd. And it's a great time. So definitely join us. Anyway, we're going to wrap up El Salvador. Trunks up, everybody. Bitfinex's derivatives arm officially has their DASP license, which is basically the digital asset or virtual assets. Usually the VASP license is the DASP license over in El Salvador. And they're moving their headquarters, again, Bitfinex's derivatives arm, to basically, focus on using that jurisdiction, as well as growing, of course, the Bitfinex business out of that. And not to mention that there's some more El Salvador activity to top it off. Ditto Banks, DITOBANX, is tokenizing, they say, $300 million worth of assets in El Salvador using Tokeny. In order to be able to do that. So, lots of moves now, not just volcano bonds like we've been talking about for a long time. And we saw a couple of use cases, especially by Bitfinex and some others in El Salvador last year, but kicking off the year with not one, but two pieces of movement here. El Salvador is really moving upstream here, I think. What do you guys think?
Big shout out to the Tokeny team. Of course, investors in them. We like what they are doing, getting into the trenches in El Salvador. The Lion's Den, or how do you say that in proper English? Very good stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like El Salvador is almost following like the classic crypto path, where like they had some crypto success, they paid off their debts, they did everything with Bitcoin, and now they're like, oh, let's learn more about the tokenization economy, and now they're really expanding into many other verticals. And of course, I'm oversimplifying here and using an analogy that's certainly way less involved than how I imagine government economic processes go. Guys like Samson Mao from Jan 3 and others have been spending so much time on this for years. So major credit to that that entire country, as well as the everybody around that ecosystem that's working to help the government understand how to use tokenization to empower their financial markets. It's not only great to see that they've been able to bring themselves out of debt, but cool that they're taking the next step and not just stopping there with Bitcoin.
Yeah. As you can see, everybody, tokenization is off to the races again this year with activity across the board, across the globe in all kinds of different use cases. And we're here to cover it. So we've got more news for you. Don't go anywhere. But we've also got right now an awesome interview with Klaus from DigiShares and Jason. So let's hop into that. Thanks for joining us, Nico.
Welcome to the first interview of 2025. Herwig, just a little bit off. We didn't get a chance to have Klaus, but we do have Gabriel, who leads the US arm here at DigiShares. Gabriel, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Hopefully I'm a close enough second to Klaus so that it's good enough for the show.
You've been on the show before. We've known you for years, man. Of course, we're excited to have you. You guys have a very, very fun announcement to kick off the year, which is your DigiShares Launch platform. I did cover it a little bit in our What's Drippin' newsletter, but for our audience here, tell us a little bit about, what does the platform enable people to do and what differentiates it from other tokenization platforms out in the space?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jason. So DigiShares historically has been a white label tokenization platform provider. So we provide the tools to our clients to tokenize, and they put their logo, they integrate it to their website or to another platform or app, and they go on and tokenize. So obviously that has a lot of benefits like the customization, and we have a lot of APIs and all of that. But the flip side is that it's more human capital intensive, and it can be a bit more expensive, right? So we've had a lot of demand from leads, people reaching out saying, we just want a very basic, simple platform that enables us to onboard a tokenized investor base, manage it, and then connect to some secondary trading venues. And so for the past years, we've been working really hard to create a true SaaS experience where there's, you don't even have to speak with anyone within the company to onboard. You have just the basic plain vanilla functionalities ready to go. No need to customize anything, to select third-party providers for KYC and wallets and other things. Everything's ready to go, and so that's DigiShares Launch. We've launched Launch just about a week ago, and thanks for covering that for STM. And so our price point we think is very attractive. It's just $3,000 to get started, then $300 a month. So really simplified compared to other options that are out there. And hopefully, now anyone who wants to tokenize and doesn't need a white label, is not like starting a business or a marketplace, and just wants to tokenize their assets, they can go to our website, sign up, and get going, and pretty much immediately.
Overview, and I think it's really cool that you guys are making tokenization a little bit better for pretty much any issuer to be able to come on and go ahead and go through the process. Obviously, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles from the white label, but it does get you from A to Z, right? Which for some issuers may be the priority in terms of timing and so forth. With that said, based on maybe like your prior clientele that has used DigiShares in the past, who would you say is the target issuer that would use this version of DigiShares?
Yeah, I think real estate developers, real estate funds, or any kind of real world asset developer or fund, companies that don't, whose tokenization strategy is not to start a new business and, with a separate brand, but they just want to tap into what we see as the two main benefits of tokenization, which is the ability to onboard fractional investors from around the world very easily using crypto rails, and then the second listing on a secondary trading venue. And so we, maybe we'll just allude to it briefly after, but we're also launching realestate.xyz, which is somewhere tokenized real estate shares can be traded on a secondary trading venue. And so the launch will act as the main the main onboarding for realestate.xyz. Because it just simplifies the process to a point where you get anyone. It should be a no-brainer to list and enable your investors to trade on a secondary market. So really tapping into those two main benefits without creating a whole new business and platform with a new brand.
Got it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you. And I'm excited for realestate.xyz as soon as it's ready. Obviously, at STM, we'll be, looking to track any assets listed of theirs too. And I know we'll probably be doing a webinar with you guys to go over realestate.xyz. For our audience looking and listening in, go ahead and keep an eye out for that announcement for the date for that webinar and getting a closer look at what that looks like. Gabriel, before I let you go, curious, what would you say are your predictions of the RWA tokenization market for 2025? Where do you see us going?
Yeah, so I think, if we consider that 2024 was the year of the money market funds and the treasury bond funds with BlackRock and Benji and all of those. I think we're going to continue sliding along the liquidity scale. So that obviously we started with stable coins. That's like the ultimate liquid asset. Now 2024, as described, the money market funds, treasury bonds. And I think we're just going to continue going down the line of from most liquid to least liquid. So I don't think 2025 necessarily is going to be the year where real estate, all real estate is going to be, or it's going to become like super mainstream. But I think we're going to keep moving in that directions, probably start with more like fund structures. And then ultimately in maybe a year or two or three, then be in a place where most real estate is getting tokenized.
Makes sense. I mean, we just realized released a report on, the global tokenized real estate, over $30 billion worth so far. So imagine when people start understanding all the benefits that tokenization and DeFi afford as well for, tokenized real estate, how much more will come on chain soon. And I'm excited because you guys are making it even easier for some of these issuers to finally, kind of go over the hump and go ahead and, execute on the tokenization front. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us. I'm very excited for the webinar we'll be doing together very soon. Have a great day, and we will be going on to the Token Debrief.
Likewise. Thank you, Jason.
Awesome update from Gabriel there, Kyle. Just goes to show you the industry is compressing fees, providing great technologies at affordable, scalable tokenization solutions, Kyle. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of my predictions, why I'm so bullish, because people are underestimating how easy it is to tokenize. And when we all get on board and when the market starts really flowing, Kyle, I think we're going to see tokenization like crazy.
That's right.
But I think the rest of the industry news, which once again, we can't cover everything. So we highly recommend you go to stm.co for all the latest news and trading information. But we've got some great articles here for our Token Debrief to cover, starting off with a shout out to our very own producer on the show and correspondent, Jason Barraza, for also getting a feature in CoinDesk for his predictions on the $50 billion market cap we are at now and where we are headed for 2025. And we got some bullish excitement around here when it comes to RWA growth this year, Kyle. So go check out that CoinDesk article. Just a quick shout out there. But moving on, big news in terms of Hamilton Lane, which has been very active tokenizing a lot of their own product. Now, Elixir is enabling DeFi access, if you will, through DEUSD and providing access to Hamilton Lane's tokenized scope fund. So this is pretty cool news as we see this concept of DeFi start to merge in with RWAs. It's not just let's tokenize the scope fund, let's put it on a platform and distribute it. But now you can tap, Securitize in November tapped DEUSD's real world asset institutional program for their vaults that they've been launching. So, now that you can actually take advantage of these vaults for real RWAs, like a very professional product like Hamilton Lane Scope Fund, I think it's pretty awesome, Kyle. Not sure your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I need to do a little bit more research. I haven't had the time to really look into what DEUSD is. It stands for decentralized US dollar, but in a lot of ways that feels a bit oxymoronic just because it's like, I'm sure that you have to use traditional banking systems in order to take your DEUSD token and convert it into dollars. Like, I'm not sure how decentralized it can be if it's pegged to the dollar. But again, that could just be me overthinking and not fully understanding DeFi. I know that there's a lot of amazing innovations going on in the space. And I agree that it's a wonderful opportunity to integrate stablecoins into these institutional products. So the fact that they're working with Hamilton Lane, they're already working with Securitize on building vaults for these things. It seems like they're taking all of the right steps. I just need to learn a little bit more about how that works. And I think that this is kind of continuing to bring that discussion of DeFi versus TradFi and how these layers work in together, because it does seem like the tech is fully there to allow for DeFi integrations. It really just comes down to a compliance and regulatory thing. And I'm not sure if that has been fully solved yet, despite everyone's best intentions.
Well, I think it's live and happening. So hopefully it has been resolved. So this is a big trend for me for this year. We're going to see the convergence of DeFi and RWAs. In fact, we just saw another vault set up with yet another institutional product by Superstate. And they worked with Morpho and to set up basically their use of their crypto carry fund, that's your USCC, to be able to use that in the Stakehouse RWA vault that they have, with USDC. So I love this because this is yet another example of what we're talking about. You're going to see more and more vaults, pop up around, again, what we're talking about, institutional products. This isn't necessarily what we saw in the past for a lot of sort of fringe products trying to put together some kind of RWA vaults. And so I'm just excited to see this as well.
Yeah, totally agree. This also makes a lot of sense. The RWA vault is an exciting, adoption and innovation. So, I was looking at Coinbase. I see they're also offering a lot of earn solutions, which I'm slightly confused about. I know that the SEC had sued them a lot for rehypothecation and offering yield on dollars, but it seems like that has been clarified in a lot of ways. And as you can see, it's now leading to a thriving economy. So another great example of where, maybe kind of letting the market regulate itself can be really, really effective.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I can't wait to see much more of this type of activity happen. And I think it's going to be a huge driver for adoption this year for RWAs. And moving on, we saw a pretty big deal over at Sologenic, Kyle, where they announced that Michael McCluskey is actually their new CEO at Sologenic, coming, pointed from within, if you will. And their focus is tokenization and DeFi. So this is big news. They recently partnered with Texture Capital, to launch a platform to tokenize assets and trade them in a marketplace. I think it's called Solotex. I have to check that again. I believe it is. But great combination of those two words right there. Solotex. So their platform, they now have a full infrastructure. They got great leadership. No, Michael, we've chatted in the past, and I'm excited to see what they also bring to the RWA space, especially also merging in DeFi in that regulated manner, tapping in Texture Capital, Kyle, to make it all happen. So any comments on this one as well?
Yeah, I think this is a great hire, and it's super exciting. We are really seeing the drive in tokenization of real-world assets using compliant features. Texture Capital, a friend of the show, Rich Johnson, has done such a great job with his company in grinding through this industry. So I think they couldn't have found a better partner. And I'm interested to learn more about Sologenic. They are project building on the Ripple ledger. So this is one of the first projects that I know of that's really working in a legitimate capacity, that I'm familiar with a lot of the vendors that they're working with and the ecosystems that they're trying to penetrate, that is using Ripple. So it'll cool to see how that plays out for them, if that's a differentiator that works well, or if it's something that is just kind of neutral, or if maybe they end up moving to a different chain in the future. Really will be cool to see from a use case.
No, I also completely agree that Ripple's starting to make a storm on the RWA space, and Sologenic's a great project to have building on it. So, speaking of great projects that are being trying to attract potentially to Hong Kong, because the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, Kyle, released a supervisory incubator for distributed ledger technology. So, basically a sandbox for, of course, digital assets and tokenization. They say have an emphasis on tokenized deposits specifically. But of course, I'm sure based on the previous activity we've seen with, the banks that they've worked with on different trials regarding use cases of settlement and tokenization, et cetera, bonds and funds and other things, no doubt they're probably looking at everything. So continuing to see the sandbox model that we would love to see in the US if it could somehow be done. And we're going to continue to see more and more countries say, hello, we also have a sandbox, come play in our jurisdiction on how you can tokenize assets, because it's a huge boon for the industry, for the economy, and the regulators that are forward thinking totally see this, and they want to encourage the right, environment that they can, control and supervise, while also encouraging innovation and activity. So I love it. Good on Hong Kong, the HKMA.
I'm so bullish. I'm so bullish on sandboxes from government regulators. I think that it's just such an ideal way for them to do it. You look at, a lot of the silly testimonies and depositions that have happened in US courts with tech leaders, and how they clearly have no idea what's going on, even in the Web 2 social media platforms. There's very, very low likelihood that many of these Congress people, or even just government in general, are going to have a clue of what's going on in the deepest fringes of DeFi. And so the real way to allow them to do that is to give them that window to be able to see in a testing environment. I think this makes a ton of sense. It allows the companies to innovate and prove the concept before having to necessarily be licensed for the idea, which I think can be very prohibitive when you need to convince somebody of the long-term effects when the long-term effects haven't been proven yet. So being able to kind of build out a lot of the ecosystem that you see the future looking like, and showcasing the run and the stress testing, I think is a more effective strategy for building fintech. So cool to see this from Hong Kong, specifically focused on stablecoins and payment infrastructure, which clearly has been the killer use case of crypto in the real world thus far.
Yeah, it's going to be a continuing big driver this year as well. Stable coins and hopefully money market funds and tokenized deposits and liability, bank liabilities, if you will, and all kinds for sure. But you know what another one is, Kyle? Precious metals and commodities. And that's why I'm excited to talk about RareDex real quick. RareDex dropping on Arbitrum, so a win for the RWA community on Arbitrum here. Where you guessed it, rare earth metals, right? They're saying 1 kilogram of precious metals secured in a German bank that they're tokenizing and letting you take advantage of on raredex.io. So, we talked about many different gold tokenizations, as well as a variety of different other kind of precious metals and commodities last year. It's clearly not going to stop if we've got more of it kicking off the year already. On Arbitrum here. So good stuff, RareDex. Congrats on this launch. Kyle?
Yeah, makes total sense. I love commodities. I like tokenizing them because when they face liquidity discounts, the redemption allows us to kind of offer that natural backstopping from a price value perspective. Arbitrum is an ETH layer 2, so you get a lot of the benefits of being Ethereum virtual machine compatible, which is beneficial for smart contracts, beneficial for integration and DeFi in the future. But perhaps Arbitrum offers some benefits maybe in terms of cost and integrations, maybe some grants and things like that. The biggest thing here is just making sure that you vet the vaults that they're working with, right? Like if there's an RWA here, if it's a commodity, make sure you know where it's actually being stored, how it's being stored, and what that redemption process looks like. But otherwise, I think this is just going to continue to keep happening. It just makes too much sense.
Makes too much sense, Kyle. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Standard Chartered, Kyle, because they're out here making moves. We talked about last year how they set up their custody services in the UAE, and now they are officially set up in Luxembourg, they say, covering now Europe as well. So they are starting to build a really global, I think, operation for custody support. And I think a lot of banks have kind of carved out, reputation in their specific regions. But good on Standard Chartered for really starting to build this kind of like global custody solution, I think is kind of what we're seeing here as a pattern. We're probably going to see a lot more of that. So a name that wasn't necessarily too much in the news, I think, around custody for digital assets and hopefully tokenized RWAs and things like that as well. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more this year, Kyle. So I just wanted to highlight that one. I'm not sure if you have any comments before we move on to Plume.
Yeah, this is just, I think, as crypto continues to get more adopted, you're going to see banks that bend the knee a little bit and build infrastructure to support that. So I think it's a good shout out to Standard Chartered, and exciting to see how their adoption from a client side perspective, if this is, actually used by their clients. And that's what I'm interested to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will be keeping an eye on that for sure. So stick with us on the show week by week. And moving on, the Plume has been on a tear and making tons of partnerships. Endel this recent week and a bunch of others, but also Pinlink I want to highlight. They're saying they're tokenizing DPIN for the first time with RWAs, thanks to Pinlink on Plume, which is a layer 1, by the way, for RWAs. For those of you who don't happen to know, they are now becoming famous for trying to push the terms RWA-fi, RWA finance. But, Pinlink, I think, is interesting just because, again, decentralized physical infrastructure, what we're talking about here, tapping into GPUs, CPUs, and other kinds of hardware and bringing that on chain, I think is an interesting narrative. And there are a few projects that we talked about, I think, on the past, but not many, Kyle. So I'm excited to see how this one pans out with Pinlink and Plume.
Yeah, how do you feel about this term? Pinlink calls itself the first RWA tokenized DPIN platform. So we're launching in there a lot of words together to describe how all of these things interrelate. Stay with us, folks, because it is kind of all in the same general ecosystem. I think it's just maybe segmenting specifically where Pinlink fits into the whole process.
Tokenized
RWA tokenized. So RWA tokenized DPIN platform.
RWA tokenized DPIN platform. That makes total sense, Kyle.
It does. It makes total sense. It's just a mouthful. But yeah, look, hey, Plume's continuing to drive adoption. They're getting cool new issuers and new platforms, new partners that are. It's not kind of just the same partnership circuit of the same companies that are doing handshake deals with each other. Plume's done a good job of bringing on new companies that can add value. DPIN is important for supply chain with a lot of this stuff. I think that's where the value is of the physical infrastructure, is tracking the provenance of these real world assets, and having those types of partners is crucial. So nice to see that the RWA and DPIN industries are continuing to collaborate, because I actually think it's a deeper need for one another than many in the tokenized asset industry really kind of understand.
Yeah, 100%. So I also wish this project and Plume a lot of success. But Kyle, I have one more to end our segment on here, which is, I think, kind of interesting. I want to at least point out the L that Figure took. And it is an unfair L. And that's why I want to shout it out, because We've been talking about here and there, and maybe those of you have seen news around Operation Choke Point 2.0, but this concept that over the last couple of years, specifically in 2022, and around that time, there was some very active interference, let's call it, by the government targeting the crypto sector, trying to debank them, trying to affect them. And unfortunately, RWAs were hit too, specifically the USDF consortium. We have just learned that the FDIC has, basically released some news around why pause letters were sent out. These pause letters basically saying, stop doing this digital asset activity. And the USDF consortium, which was a payments protocol for banks on provenance, was one of the reasons that was highlighted a couple times, Kyle. So they were a couple of banks that were excited to be involved in this, were basically asked to stop. And that kind of sucks because we don't know the proper motivation behind why that happened. And that certainly slowed down technical innovation and RWA success, and industry adoption for sure here in the US, I just wanted to point that out to those who weren't aware of this. Kind of sucks. Sorry to hear that, Mike and Figure and Providence. Kyle?
Yeah. Major shout out to a lot of the individuals that, put themselves in the line of fire for, discovering a lot of this stuff, right? Nick Carter did a great job in kind of really blowing this thing open from getting all the eyes on it. But, so many individuals, including specifically Paul Grewal from Coinbase, the chief legal officer, who really was the one that they filed the, disclosure information to force the FDIC to show a lot of these documents and provide these in the legal case, and really provided a lot of this that we're seeing now, which is that behind the scenes, government regulators have been what seems like strong arming banks, institutions into avoiding the crypto industry in a way that many feel is unconstitutional and is not allowed. Many people feel that that's not the role of this individual, organization. I'm not necessarily going to make a comment either way on that, but it does seem like this was certainly an overreach in some ways, at least because of the fact that they did not want any of this thing public. And it seems like not only were they trying to prevent crypto from, banks from using and adopting crypto from a payments technology, but now it seems like they also were trying to prevent, US dollar-based payment structures as well, which I think is a shame because, allowing stable coins to be denominated in dollars, I think is a strong benefit to the US economy. We've seen what that means for the dollar buying treasuries. We see what that means for, global international economies using the dollar and how it strengthens the dollar's dominance internationally. So I think that this is actually just not quite, it seems like it's missing the mark in terms of trying to prevent some of these things from being adopted, but perhaps there are other reasons at play that I'm unaware of. But yeah, this does seem to be pretty groundbreaking because none of this is public and much of it was denied by many of these individuals, as well as many politicians who turn out to have been leading the charge from behind the scenes. So if you've seen a struggle or a lack of growth in this industry, some of it might be, due to the fact that there's just a lot going on behind the scenes that makes it tough for some of these companies.
Shout out to the entrepreneurs that are building. And now the truth is out there. We have a right to be upset. And hopefully we see a new approach under the new administration coming soon, folks. So there's a lot more news out there. And we now have to pick a company of the year from last year. So don't go anywhere. First, a quick update from the RWA Foundation. What up, Trunkies? Hopefully everyone's at a good start of the first week here. And it's time for your weekly update, which, for most of you, you're probably hearing this for the first time, or if you haven't, this is your homework. You owe it to yourself if you're a crypto native who believes in RWAs, which is to go check out our white paper. RWA Foundation has released officially the Wally DAO white paper. It's going to be our DAO, what we believe is going to be the largest decentralized community of real world asset crypto natives. We're excited to, continue to see the bridging of DeFi and RWAs, the decentralization of capital markets through governance tokens and other initiatives. And we're forming together an amazing industry membership with over 30 partners that are supporting the RWA Foundation. So go check out what we're working on, read the Wally DAO white paper, and then ask us your questions. Come hop in the channel. We're going to be releasing a lot of announcements very soon, including our roadmap. But the best way to stay updated is to go to RWAF.xyz or go to Twitter, go to X. Go check out our at RWA Foundation _ account. And then also take the leap and join our Telegram if you really want to get active. We got hundreds in the herd, if you will, already active on Telegram. And we would appreciate your support on Twitter as we grow. We're going to release much more amazing news about how you're going to be able to qualify for the Wally token, a lot of initiatives and working groups that we're launching behind the RWA Foundation. We've got an exciting 2025 roadmap for you coming soon. But we are also going to need your help and support. So please go tap into our community and we'll see you there. Meanwhile, let's get on with the show.
All right, everybody. It is that time of the week. Herwig, we are now 6 years into the Company of the Year award. This is the most exciting award in the industry. I get really excited about Companies of the Week, but the reality is the Companies of the Week pales in comparison to the Company of the Year announcement. This is the biggest company that made the biggest moves in the industry for the tokenized real world asset industry. And the only way that you can even have a sniff at winning this award is if you win one of our Companies of the Week awards. So spoiler alert, you've heard the company's name before because they would have had to have either been covered in the top 5 and then covered in the Companies of the Week, or maybe a random Company of the Week that didn't make it into the top 5 or top 10 articles for the market movements, but that's probably pretty unlikely. So I'm sure you've heard these companies' names many times before throughout the year. And I can't wait to announce who is, not only is it the biggest award, but it's probably the biggest company in the industry.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal, Kyle. It's very unfortunate for the companies this week that might have been entrants for 2025 winners, but we are only going to cover our Company of the Year for 2024. Many other amazing winners before that: Republic, T0, Securitize, JP Morgan, all very prominent Hall of Famers, if you will, Company of the Year winners. We got one more to add to the list. And 2024 was a juicy year. We reportedly called it the year of the RWA. The term RWA had been around, but the tokenization, in fact, even the Financial Services Committee within Congress had a hearing around real world asset tokenization. And so the RWA term, I think, is officially taken hold. And it was a grand year. We saw a huge market growth, and we saw an amazing company pretty much bring the entire industry to the next level. Isn't that right, Kyle?
That's totally right. There was really only one winner. I think that, we could definitely reflect back and pick some of our favorite Company of the Week, announcements and some of the great things going on in the space. But there was one company that translated into not only billions of dollars of adoption just this year alone, but also the ripple effects and the inflection point that was driven with a lot of their adoption, stemming not only from the ETF that they put together, but then also everything that they were able to do in the tokenized economy. Herwig, who was our winner this year?
Well, Kyle, if we were the faces of tokenization, we no longer were last year. We got replaced.
Dethroned.
We were dethroned by a brand new face. And so I can't avoid it any longer. I want to pass it back to you to say, hey, who's our company? But we can't avoid it any longer, Kyle. They made the absolute biggest moves. They became they became the face of tokenization, and they really brought the entire industry to the next level. Drum roll, Kyle, that winner, Company of the Year for 2024 by the Security Token Show. Congratulations, none other than BlackRock. Oh, shocker to some of you, obvious to many. It is just clear when the largest $10 trillion plus asset manager in the world endorses tokenization in the way that Larry Fink did, not just the beginning of last year, but also the beginning of this year. It just goes to show you that they are all in. Now they bought JP Morgan's Quincy, tokenized bond. They obviously invested in Securitize and launched BUIDL. It's a huge, huge move for the industry that woke up many other banks and asset managers to pay attention to this. And so it's exciting to see. Kyle, any thoughts on your end from why we chose BlackRock?
Look, I think it's every step of the way. As I mentioned, driving the Bitcoin ETF was a game changer in crypto prices, as well as the legitimacy of the industry. We've got Larry Fink, who's been saying tokenization is the future, and then lives by those words in launching their tokenized fund on Ethereum the right way, featuring DeFi and decentralization. We've got their integrations with all the other blockchain solutions, many other providers. We've got them working directly with Securitize, friend of the show, and long stalwart in the industry, being super active in the security token industry. It just seems like every step of the way, they've done it the right way, and they've really brought significant weight into their opinions. They're not just announcing things, they're putting money behind it. And it's been crucial in legitimizing this industry and this asset class when it feels like we've been shouting at a wall for so many years. So it really feels great to feel seen.
Congratulations, Larry Fink, the whole digital asset tokenization team over at BlackRock and BlackRock itself. You're our Company of the Year for 2024. Feel free to come on the show and talk about your plans for 2025. You have an open invitation. And with that, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you again next week. Make sure you go to stm.co, all the latest trading news and information. And meanwhile, happy tokenizing.